So this apparatus, you can see it is the Hartnell governor. Fine. So it is a kind of governor which uses spring force in addition to the gravitational force. Fine. Because we observe that gravitational force is not always good. Fine. Because in case of moving vehicles which are dynamically moving, there will be inertia forces coming into action, and these inertia forces may result in gravity getting reversed also. Fine. For example, when a vehicle takes a jump, it will be under free fall for some time till it touches back to the ground. Fine. And as soon as it touches the ground, the inertia will act in the opposite direction, and the gravity will double up also sometimes. So these variations make the gravity-based governors very undependable. So the gravity-based governors can only be used for static systems. So maybe you can use it for now operating the turbine, right? Because in turbine we have to keep the speed constant, because we want to develop electricity at constant frequency. That is, at what frequency? How much?
50 hertz.
So in India we go for 50 hertz. Okay. So abroad they are going for 60 hertz because the environment there is cold. More frequency provides with higher efficiency, but will also result in more losses when transmitted. Fine. So India being a slightly warmer region, so we have decided as 50 hertz. We have decided the frequency as 50 hertz, and voltage is higher because the resistance will also be high here because the climate is a bit warm. Okay. So because the resistance is high, lower voltage will not transmit for greater lengths, and that's why we have chosen 230 volts as a standard here in India and with 50 hertz of frequency. So in governor and all, we will be using the other governors. Fine. But when we have to use a governor for a body which is dynamically moving, where there are a lot of inertia forces, centrifugal forces, because of motion of the vehicle itself, we have to go for governors like this. Okay. So this is a Hartnell governor, and of course when the friction, the centrifugal force will result in lifting of the sleeve here also. But you can see that the spring is getting compressed when the sleeve is moving up and down. Okay. So the compression of the spring will provide an extra force on the sleeve. Okay. So and if we keep the sleeve almost weightless, then gravity will not affect that much. The main deciding factor will be the spring force. Main deciding factor here will be the spring force. So let me explain the apparatus next. So you can see the sleeve is moving up and down. That is possible. So there are L-shaped levers on the upper end of which we have the balls, and these balls create the centrifugal force. So when the balls move outwards, the sleeve gets upward lifted. Okay. And we have a frame here which is attached to the central shaft, and we have here two rollers using which we can increase the spring force. Right. So when the spring is already compressed, at the lowermost position also it will be putting some constant force. So as the spring gets compressed and moves, as the sleeve moves upwards, the spring gets more compressed, and the amount of force from the spring will also increase. Okay. Whereas when it comes to gravitational force, is it constant or changing? It is constant, because the amount of mass that we are applying on that is always constant. That's not changing as the governor operates. Whereas here, because it is a spring, the force keeps on increasing. Okay. And the relation is never linear. The relation is not linear, and they can be used for higher speeds also. They can be used for very, very high speeds also. Okay. At the bottom, the governor will be more sensitive. That means for less variation in speed, it will show more variation in sleeve. Okay. More displacement. Okay. But as it moves upwards, even higher speed variation will result in very small sleeve displacement. Okay. So that is how this will behave.
When you say the relation is linear, what does that mean?
Relation linear means if the speed doubles, displacement will also double.
Okay.
Right. But that doesn't happen here in this case. Okay, that doesn't happen.